What is dissociation? Why do schizoids dissociate? How does dissociation affect schizoid lives? I will be answering these questions and more in this video. So, to start off with, what is dissociation? Wikipedia defines dissociation as a wide array of experiences ranging from a mild emotional detachment from the immediate surroundings to a more severe disconnection from physical and emotional experiences. The major characteristic of all dissociative phenomena involves a detachment from reality rather than the loss of reality, as in psychosis. Like with many conditions, dissociation exists on a spectrum, and so severity can range from normal everyday dissociation, like daydreaming or not paying attention, to manifesting as a serious psychological disorder, such as dissociative identity disorder, previously called multiple personality disorder. Dissociation symptoms can also be present in other personality disorders and conditions. These include borderline personality disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and schizophrenia. If chronic enough, a person can be diagnosed with dissociative disorder. There are multiple different types of dissociative disorder. However, I will not be covering this specifically in this video. Why do schizoids dissociate? When people with SPD dissociate, this is usually part of the schizoid defense. It's thought that as infants or in early childhood, many schizoids have found themselves in an environment that was either excessively restrictive, intrusive, or hostile in a way that has caused us trauma. And our response to this trauma was to dissociate in order to create psychological and emotional distance between ourselves and the external world. I will be making a video focusing purely on the schizoid defense and the various ways in which this works to keep our true selves protected and sequestered from the external world. But for this video, I just want to focus on the consequences of dissociations and the different forms that it can take. The consequence of using dissociation as a defense mechanism is that over time, dissociation can become an ingrained pattern or mode of operation for many schizoids. And this will tend to happen more when we're in situations of stress or discomfort. How does dissociation affect schizoid lives? Dissociation can affect us in many ways in terms of how we relate to others and our ability to connect with and maintain contact with the external physical world. The level of dissociation experienced within schizoids will vary from person to person, and it affects our lives to different degrees. I'll cover the 7 main types of dissociation that affect schizoids. 1. Zoning out. Many people with SPD can find themselves habitually zoning out from their surroundings. This does not mean losing touch with reality, but more going into our heads. When in the state of zoning out, many schizoids find comfort, security, interest, and entertainment from within our own minds. And being inside our heads, schizoids tend to value engaging with internal thoughts and ideas more than engaging with the external world. What happens in our mind varies from person to person, naturally. Some schizoids will experience being mentally void, whilst others tend to engage in introspective thoughts, abstractions, or fantasies. Many schizoids are deeply into theoretical thinking and exploring philosophical concepts. Some of us have very rich imaginations and can create other worlds or complex scenarios or different characters within our minds. This leads on to number 2. The problem is that for some schizoids, a fantasy world can develop into maladaptive daydreaming. This reduces the level of attention that is directed towards activities and external responsibilities in everyday life, which can have a number of negative knock-on effects or repercussions, such as disrupted work or sleep. And thirdly, we have dissociative amnesia. Dissociation and not being fully present in the moment in connection with the external world means that many schizoids have gaps in their memories. This is called dissociative amnesia. These gaps can be short or whole phases of a person's life. In particular, if there's abuse in our younger years, this can cause even higher levels of dissociation, and so many of our childhood memories can become inaccessible to us. 4. Depersonalization. Depersonalization brings forth a sense of detachment or disconnection from oneself. It can make us feel like we aren't a real person, like a ghost. This can also affect the degree to which we feel personally connected to our bodies. For some of us, depersonalization causes us to feel robotic or like we're operating on autopilot. By the way, I'll probably do a separate video on depersonalization. If not, this will certainly be included when I make the video about the schizoid defense. Emotional detachment. Most schizoids relate to having difficulty connecting with, reading, or expressing their emotions. This causes us to feel emotionally detached from the outside world and other people, and this can cause us to come across as cold and aloof. Emotional detachment is a key feature of the schizoid condition and something that influences our attitude towards relationships, as we tend to lack the ability to form intimate connections with other people. Because dissociation causes schizoids to experience emotional detachment, we tend to recall memories without any emotions attached to them. This could also be linked to many schizoids experiencing anhedonia, which is a reduced ability to feel pleasure. So under these circumstances, feelings of pleasure aren't always encoded in connection to past activities. Schizoid emotions is a topic that runs into a lot of depth and complexity. I aim to cover this issue in greater depth in future, and we'll have another look at this when I do the empty core video. Derealization. Along with depersonalization and emotional detachment, derealization for many of us can cause schizoids to feel as if we are walking around in a dream. It can feel like the outside world is far away, or that we're looking at the world from behind glass or a misted window, like outside, and it can seem like outside is not a solid place. This can cause us to feel detached from people and objects, and it can be that the outside world seems like strange or surreal or foreign to us, even like when we're in very familiar territory. And finally, on to 7, which is unclear identity. Part of dissociation means that we're out of touch with who we are, which means that we can lack a strong sense of identity or find it hard to know who we really are. This can make it harder for us to fit into cultural settings where having a shared sense of identity is required to fit into the group. Not having a strong sense of identity can mean that some of us don't internally relate to having a specific gender or don't identify with gender stereotypes. Identity is another complex issue that varies from schizoid to schizoid, but definitely can impact our potentiality for sociability. So this was just a brief overview of dissociation to introduce you to some of the concepts and 7 ways in which dissociation can impact people with SPD. As I said, I will be covering these issues more deeply in future videos, but that's it for now.